I'd like to thank all of our attendees for coming to this webinar. I'm going to introduce our presenters and our partners that are on this webinar with us today. My name is Matt Parker. I am the Energy Programs Associate over at Walking Mountain Science Center in Avon, Colorado. Today with us to talk about our cold climate air source heat pumps are Sean Lamons from Mitsubishi Electric. He is the Performance Construction Manager. We also have Sam Beeson from Mitsubishi. He's the Utility Program Development Manager. And Kurt Spresser with Area Sales. He is the Area Sales Manager at Mitsubishi. We also have one of our utility partners, Mary Weiner, who is the Energy Efficiency Program Administrator at Holy Cross Energy. Also on this webinar with us is Nikki Moline, the Energy Programs Director here at Walking Mountains. With that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Sean Lamons to begin his presentation.
Great, thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate you taking the time, helping us set this up. We're looking forward to sharing the information. And just so everybody knows, we're going to approach this from as much of a third-party position as we can, talking about cold climate heat pumps, what they can do. And while you might see names and logos around the presentation periodically, please know that we're here to help raise all boats within the industry and move towards some would say a ductless revolution, but in fact a cold climate heat pump revolution for the Colorado market. So thanks again. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's see, here we go. Matt, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Everything looks great.
All right, perfect. Great, all right, so thanks again for the time today, everyone. I want to start out by asking the question, what's your why? We all have different reasons why we do things, different motivators that get us to take action. And so regardless of whether you see your why somewhere related on the right side or something completely different, just I'll have you keep in mind what your why is for considering these types of changes with heat pumps and the work that we're going to be doing moving forward with taking care of conditioning our homes. One of my big whys is the fact that the U.S. economy is 33% efficient, a little bit less in fact. This is a crazy spaghetti chart that we could have a long conversation about all the nuances, but if you simply take the top number, this 100 quadrillion BTUs calculated for 2019 energy use, and you back into that these energy services, this is how much energy goes into the work that's being done in the U.S. economy. And that basically tells us that the entire U.S. economy is about 33% efficient. So let's get to a little bit more about how heat pumps work. And I'm going to move my mic close to the laptop speaker so everybody can hear.
In the past, conventional electric heat pump systems were known for their poor efficiency and performance in cold weather temperatures. Today, advancements in modern variable speed heat pump and zoning technology gives everyone in the home year-round comfort, even in sub-zero temperatures. Here's how they work. Ultra-efficient variable speed heat pump systems consist of an indoor air handling unit and an outdoor condensing unit. The units are connected via two refrigerant lines. Working as a system, the units efficiently transfer the desired cooling or heating energy to each personalized comfort zone. In summer, air conditioning is produced when heat energy from inside a home is absorbed by the system's refrigerant and transferred to the outdoor air. In winter, the refrigerant cycle is reversed, and the system extracts heat from the outdoor air and transfers it inside to heat the home. When compared to fossil fuel burning systems, modern variable speed heat pumps provide exceptional heating performance while being a greener, more environmentally friendly option. To achieve this, variable speed inverter compressors use up to 40% less energy than past conventional systems by modifying the compressor speed up or down as needed in order to maintain consistent, comfortable indoor temperatures, a feature conventional systems simply do not have. As an added benefit, some systems allow a single outdoor unit to control up to 8 indoor units for added comfort, efficiency, and styles within a home. Ductless indoor units circulate and filter the air already in your home, resulting in improved air quality with whisper-quiet operation. Today's revolutionary inverter compressor technology is an impressive advancement in residential heating and cooling. These smart systems regulate energy consumption using only the precise amount of energy needed to keep a home comfortable.
Okay, so sorry for the canned presentation there, but it's a useful video that you could find online that just talks about how heat pumps work and gives some good visual and audio about that is beneficial for sharing the basic how and why. So another big how or why is how big should heat pumps be? While we're not going to spend a lot of time on this slide really just shows that over the past few decades, building shells have improved. This is energy code driven changes or reductions in energy use intensity. And so back in the 70s, while we might have an energy use intensity up here at 100, so that's an index showing roughly comparatively how much better building shells, energy efficiency codes are down in the 2012-2015 range. And 2018 is a little bit better than 2015, and they're going to continue to drop. So looking at, considering that, it's the Manual J. I don't know if you've heard about HVAC load calculations before, but Manual J is the protocols that a heating and cooling professional would go through to identify the loads in the building, identify how much work needs to be done to keep that thermostat set point met. One key item to think about, though, in this is that over time, years of weather has been, the temperature has been increasing over time. So weather's been changing, and the most recent decades have been the hottest on record. However, this data set is outside of the time frame that Manual J load calculations generally reference. And so those warmer temperatures are not necessarily reflected in those load calculations. So it kind of goes back to the older rules of thumb and making sure that we're considering where are we heading in our load calculations. Heat pumps have changed over time, and this is not meant to say this is everything that Mitsubishi does, but it's just here to show you that there's a lot of different form factors, a lot of different indoor unit types that are possible these days with heat pumps. Everybody's familiar with the wall units, but some people might not realize that there are air handlers and ceiling cassettes and different types of controls that go along with those standard versus hyperheat or cold climate heat pumps. So it's just something to consider that there's been a lot of changes in evolution of heat pumps over time. Now looking at cost comparisons, this slide is really showing the cost of heating BTUs kind of unit for unit, if you will. Now this says million BTUs, but think in terms of just unit to unit. The amount of the cost to heat your home with propane would be $27, about $27 per million BTUs. Natural gas at 94 cents a therm would be $10.44 cost per million BTUs. There's a little bit of adjustment in that. Electric resistance heat would be at 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour would be $29.30 per kilowatt hour. I'm sorry, per million BTUs, I apologize. And cold climate heat pumps at 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour would be a fraction of that because of the way that these heat pumps work, moving through phase change and basically working as a pulley, as a lever on the amount of energy in versus the amount of energy out. A different way to look at it from a study that was done up in Minnesota a few years back is really just showing that here is the total energy use for this particular home, these site characteristics down here, this 2-bedroom, 1.5-story home. A cold climate heat pump with electric resistance boost, so electric backup, used 34.3 million BTUs for the heating season, or actually, sorry, for the year, annual. And that energy use is far lower than the electric resistance or the propane or the natural gas. Now, considering dollar changes in those fuels, you'll see some comparisons and some lower, some higher numbers, etc. But whether you're looking at operating costs or emissions or the overall energy use maybe for your solar system, solar PV or something that you're putting in, these are all considerations to be looked at dependent on that specific site, dependent on that house, that location, and the usage. Another way to look at those comparisons is that this maps out the load according to Manual J. So I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it just shows that the house actually performed much better than what was expected. And this green area shows the booster heat or the electric heat backup. This light green is what they expected. The dark green is what they actually saw because the house performed a little bit better than the calculations. And it was a small percentage of time that actual electric heat actually ran. Another way to look at it is units of energy in versus units of energy out. Here is a 82% AFUE furnace, so annual fuel utilization, and then a higher efficiency furnace and electric resistance. So this electric resistance is 1 unit of energy in and 1 unit of energy out. The gas is 1 in and roughly 82% out, but there's a modifier in there for startup and shutdown. The green line is cold climate heat pump with electric resistance and much higher return on that unit of energy in. And again, depends on the house, depends on the location. One consideration is about width sizing and system design is thinking about low loads and part load conditions. This red line was electric resistance for this particular study. It was an old building that was retrofit to offices. When they first put in the first system, they weren't getting very good performance out of it. It was better, but not significantly better than electric resistance. That was that first winter. But once they realized what was going on, they made a change and they put in a modified air source heat pump system that actually got to that 40% reduction or in the neighborhood of that 40% reduction because they were considering minimum loads. Now, Colorado examples, looking at a 3-bedroom, two-story, 2,000 square foot single family home with a 32,000 BTU heating load. And this home happens to be, I calculated it at 10,000 feet at a negative 10 degree design temperature. So pretty aggressive numbers there, 32,000 BTUs of load. There are different ways to do this, and you can do one-to-one systems with wall heads. You can do one-to-many systems or multi-zone with one outdoor and multiple indoors. You can do ductless, you can do ducted. This particular one on the bottom is actually, I'll go back for a moment, this particular design will deliver 28,000 BTUs of heat at these design conditions, and then you can add on some electric backup to make up the difference. And certainly you wouldn't need the 62,000 BTUs for the 32,000 BTU load at negative 10. But it shows you that it's possible. There's a great document out there that I actually just came across, or it was shared with me recently, that talks about air source heat pumps, basics, and how to proceed and how to identify the right one for you and a professional that can do the work for you. And this will be on the slide deck that's sent out after this. But it's a great document. I was very impressed with how well it was done. Air source heat pump buying guide from NEEP. And I believe we are on to Kurt now. Kurt, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Really appreciate it. You want to go back there, Sean? Back slide, the other slide. There you go. This slide basically shows, you know, that the ductless market in the world. I mean, if anybody's ever traveled to South America, Europe, Asia, you go to the room or wherever you're staying, and there's a ducted or ductless unit, wall mount unit hanging on the wall. This graph here this slide here just kind of shows the percentage of ductless in each country or you know, and as you can see in North America, it's only 9% as of right now. So there's a lot of room for growth with ductless in the United States, in North America. And then this slide here, basically we do a lot of training with our contractors. And this is basically well over 50% of US HVAC contractors do not size the heating and cooling correctly. And this comes down to training and doing manual J load calculations. This is our hands-on and e-learning training. So in the past, our contractors would have to take let's say a day training. Now it's a 2-day hands-on training, and we've developed these e-learning activities to help our contractors understand and fix problems, fix any issues, and how to install our product as well. So we do a lot of online trainings. We're up to 65 online trainings right now for our contractors, and that doesn't even include the hands-on training. And then this slide kind of shows you the best cold climate best practices. This is what we explain to our contractors as well. So in this slide here, if you notice the outdoor unit on the northwest side or the west side of the home, maybe the contractor, you know, a better idea would be to put the outdoor unit on the east side or southeast side of the building. And we do offer, to protect the outdoor unit, we do offer wind baffles, we offer hail guards and snow guards. And this is another best practices, as you can see in the middle slide there, or the middle picture. We like to see our equipment off the ground due to runoff with the condensate, and obviously the snow, especially, you know, on the western slope there. And then that bottom right graph, or that picture there, just shows some of the quality points that we tell our contractors about installing our product and where to install our product as far as the outdoor unit. Thank you.
All right, hand it off to me, Sean. Very good. Well, thanks, Sean, and thanks, Kurt. I wanted to talk just for a minute about the use of cold climate heat pumps and their role that they play, I guess, in beneficial electrification. If you look at kind of just the bigger picture of what's going on globally and nationally and states and communities, we're just seeing such a great opportunity, and it's a great opportunity on a lot of different fronts. It's a great opportunity for us personally, for our communities, for cities and states to work towards climate objectives and having a positive impact on climate change. It's a great opportunity for businesses to grow in this market segment. And it's a great opportunity for workforce growth with clean energy jobs. We're just going to see more and more demand for jobs to help electrification happen. So Sean, you can go to the next slide. This is a slide we just titled "Electrify Everything." I mean, we're seeing a big push towards cleaning the power grid. I mean, I looked at electrification in just a couple of different buckets. You know, we need to clean the power grid, which is happening at a very rapid pace. We've seen the cost of solar and wind power dropped dramatically. So that has a big impact on our ability to provide clean energy into the grid. And then we've seen over the last few years a bigger focus, especially in climate plans at the state level, for growth in electric vehicle sales as a way to help with those climate plans and reaching our climate objectives. So we clean the grid, and then we work on transportation. We're seeing this happen on a global basis as well. And then kind of the third bucket is building decarbonization. And what we mean by that is we need to clean how we presently heat both space and water inside of our buildings, whether it's commercial or whether it's residential. And a lot of people don't realize that buildings have a big impact on our total carbon emissions. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment has said that buildings in Colorado account for nearly 25% of total greenhouse gas pollution in the state. So being able to work on replacing fossil fuel heating for both space and water with electricity, clean electricity, and electric heat pumps, where we get a little bit, well, actually quite a bit bigger value of use of energy, is a really important part to hitting our climate goals. You can go to the next slide, Sean. The next slide is really just kind of a discussion about how is it happening, how's it going to happen in the future, and how's it been happening. And of course, there is no clear-cut pathway forward. So cities, states, and communities have been working on plans to figure out how do we do this going forward, and how do we make it beneficial for not just the climate, but for people as well. So there's a couple of, if we just draw a line down the center of the slide vertically and separate the voluntary side and the mandate side. On the voluntary side, there's a lot of things that voluntarily people have done. We've seen people both in the design community, commercially and residentially, where they're building above code homes, creating more efficient homes, whether it's a passive house standard or just even putting in better windows or better insulation, working towards just creating a greater sense of energy efficiency in our buildings helps lower energy usage. We've seen even people push to go to net zero. And so that's a voluntary side. Now, we could push the net zero focus, at least in California, over to the mandated side. So in California, which I think January of this year, 2020, it's now a requirement to go net zero on residential new construction. So we're seeing solar arrays on all new homes in California at this point. So that's one area where it's not voluntary anymore. It's now a requirement. Again, back on the left-hand side, how do we get there? Incentives are a really important part of this. Mary from Holy Cross is going to talk about incentives that they have in place now, and they've had incentives in place. And they're great incentives to help kind of level the playing field for the cost of technologies. So certainly incentives make a big part of that. If we move more to the right-hand side now, on the compulsory side or the mandated side, we're seeing a lot of movement in legislation. They're creating statewide climate goals in a lot of areas, and so that's driving changes in building codes. So we're seeing some policy changes. We're seeing some building code changes where, for example, in Washington State, the new Washington State Energy Code, it just favors heat pumps. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult to use gas. So we're seeing a movement there where it's not just a voluntary measure anymore to use a heat pump. It makes it just more attractive to use a heat pump on a couple of different fronts. So those are some requirements. Another thing, I don't have it on the chart, but another thing we're seeing around the country is we're seeing what we call building benchmarking, where buildings like in New York, for example, have to disclose their carbon emissions, and it's viewable to the public. You can basically log into a website and look at any building's carbon emissions in New York. And they have to report that. It's a requirement. And then as we look towards 2030 as maybe some benchmark dates, along the way, there are dates in there where there's requirements where those emissions have to be decreased. So building benchmarking is another mandated requirement that will help people move more towards building decarbonization. And then just kind of finally is back on the voluntary side, I just wanted to bring up a little bit, kind of tie things up on incentives. There's a lot of different incentives. We didn't used to see fuel switching incentives, but now we're seeing more and more of that, whether it's going from propane, or even in some areas, there's incentives to not use a wood stove, more energy efficiency from going from baseboard to heat pump. Even now we're seeing incentives in different states and different utilities for transitioning from natural gas to heat pumps. So there's incentives there. Navigant did a report here a couple of years ago where they said that they forecasted in 2019 that there was about a $7.6 billion spend for energy efficiency programs across the country. And that's a lot of money, but that they anticipate that that's going to continue to grow. And they estimate that by 2028 that we'll see that number go up to about $11 billion a year. So that's about almost a 45% increase in dollars that will flow into energy efficiency programs and money that will be available for that. Again, just picking on California a little bit, since they've really pushed hard on their state climate goals. There's a group that tracks kind of the available pools, different pools of money that come from regional energy networks, from utilities, from carbon tax, from different buckets of money. There's a $435 million bucket of money right now that is, but I think $394 million that has already been approved, and then the balance of that is in process now for electrification and decarbonization programs and pilot programs as we move forward. So we'll continue to see changes in policies, codes and standards, and we're going to continue to see a significant inflow of money into incentives for voluntary measures for people to take advantage of those things to move to cleaner technologies. I think that's all I have, Sean, so I'll hand it back to you.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Great, thanks, Sam. And Matt, in fact, I think you have been, there's some good questions coming through, so if you want to go and ask some of those, and we'll get prepared to hand over to Mary from Holy Cross Energy in a few minutes. So we'll take about 10 minutes to answer some of these questions. Then Mary, and then Matt, you'll review Walking Mountain Science Center programs, and then we'll go back to about 15 minutes or so of follow-up questions, a deeper dive on some of these details. There's some great questions coming in, so whenever you're ready, Matt.
All right. So one of the first questions that we received, do cold climate air source heat pumps work with baseboard heating and or radiant in-floor heating?
Right, so the question, do they work with baseboard and radiant in-floor? I will say this, the cold climate heat pumps are a standalone solution in many cases, many applications. If someone already has a system that they want to use to keep as a backup or use as a supplemental source, whether it be electric or another fuel, there are different indoor units that can basically monitor the condition of the air coming back into them, what we call the return air, and it's monitoring that condition. It knows where it is, it knows where it needs to be, and it's checking to see how quickly it can get there over time. And if it sees that it can't keep up, it can call for additional heat. So if I understood the question correctly, working our cold climate heat pumps working with those other units, there is a way to connect them together for a more robust and complete system.
Thank you, Sean. All right. Our next question is, can you describe the environmental risks associated with the refrigerants used in these systems?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Sam or Kurt, if either one of you want to jump in, that's fine too. But refrigerants is probably the #1 issue around heat pumps, and that has to do with the global warming potential of the refrigerant. And so I will say, from my perspective, that we're not there yet. We're getting there, and as is, heat pumps are really a transition technology over the next few decades. And what's important is that we're learning to do more with what we've got. And then we need to find new ways to bring in incremental solutions along the way, better refrigerants that have lower global warming potential, et cetera. I believe that eventually we will have the technology to have heat pumps or similar technology with a global warming potential of 1 or even 0 that will do the work that we need done to maintain our lives and our homes. There are changes afoot.
I can add. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No, that's fine. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, just to add to that, I spend a bit of time with the California Air Resources Board, which has a big focus on refrigerants. And there's a couple of pathways here that we look at. One is, back in the 80s, we were trying to get rid of ozone depleting refrigerants, which we did a good job of. And then now as a result of that, we ended up with refrigerants that have a high global warming potential, which is not good. And there has been a lot of work to develop refrigerants that have a lower global warming potential. And there are some available. So both at the federal level and at the state levels, we're trying to find that pathway forward. There are some natural refrigerants that work great for water heating in a lot of applications like CO2, but they don't work so well for space conditioning in a lot of respects. So as manufacturers, it's important to us. I think part of that question too is what is the effect if we move forward with a big heat pump program and we get rid of gas furnaces? Are we really just exchanging one global warming potential issue for another? There haven't been a lot of studies done on this, but there have been a few in Europe. They seem to be a few years ahead of us on this. And one of the big studies indicates that by moving to heat pumps and even using what is most common out there today, 410A, which has a really high global warming potential, we still overall lower the greenhouse gas emissions pretty significantly. I don't have the numbers, but in harmony with that, though, we're going to be moving away from 410A pretty rapidly over the next few years. There's refrigerants out now like R32 that have a GWP, I think around 650 or something like that. They're pretty low compared to 410A, which is over 2,000. And there's some barriers to that, though. R32 is slightly flammable, and so at present we don't have building standards that will allow us to use that inside a building. So those things are being worked on now, but there's some kind of at the federal level, we'll see some pretty big changes as we approach the 2023, 2025 timeframe. And as manufacturers, I guess I just want to let everybody know that we're fully in the loop on that. We're prepared for it. We're actually using R32 in Europe and have been for a couple of years on the residential side and transitioning to that on our commercial products in Europe now. So it's a great question.
It is a great question. And just one last piece, and then we maybe have time for one quick question. I'll also add that a key piece to making sure that refrigerants are not more detrimental is installation. Proper installation is critical to managing refrigerants and avoiding refrigerant release. So proper flaring of the connections, etc. And this goes back to EPA 608 training, etc. So, great question.
Thank you both. So, yep, one more quick question. and I think this is relevant for where we live. When the temperature drops below -10, say to -20, how much heat does the cold climate air source heat pump produce? Excuse me. And then also,
Sure.
do you need a second system to handle the full heating load at that point?
I'm going to sit on this chart or this slide for a moment. The answer is, the awful answer is it depends. Some of our systems have a hard cutout at -18. You'll see a -13 on the specs, and that has to do with tested data, not necessarily capabilities. But the amount of heat delivered at those conditions depends on altitude and depends on what's connected to it, etc. You're going to get generally better performance out of one-to-one systems. To the question of adding a second component or that backup, this example right here on the bottom, it's showing that this unit will deliver using our design system builder software, which is a tool that basically takes these D ratings into account. It says that this nominal 42,000 BTU unit will deliver 28,000 BTUs at -10 at 10,000 feet of elevation. So it's a pretty good matchup for this application. However, if someone wants to have backup capability, heat security, if you will, adding that 10 kW backup system is probably a pretty good idea. Not that you would have to use it, but even if you did use it a little bit, we tend to see it in the small percentages of time. So maybe 2, 3, 4% of the time with a 4, 5, 6% premium on that price for that additional emergency heat to deliver what you need year round. Hope that answered the question.
All right.
All right, looks like we're moving on to Mary.
All right. Mary, are you ready?
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
Welcome, everybody. I'm so sorry we can't do this in person. I know Holy Cross, we miss seeing everybody. We had to do a virtual annual meeting. We always look forward to seeing our members, so we're so sorry. The virus, and then we had to deal with all the smoke and all that. So we're hoping everybody's staying healthy and enjoying the hot summer, which plays really well into heat pumps because they also do cooling. You get 2 for the price of 1. So I'm Mary Weiner with obviously Holy Cross Energy, and I run the energy efficiency program and then the beneficial electrification. So thank you, Sam, for introducing people to that concept. So I'm not going to go over this whole slide, but here's some reasons why we think people should consider going all electric. And I would say if you have gas or propane and your furnace or your boiler are getting end of life, like the next 5 years, you're going to have to look at that investment. I would ask you to start considering getting a bid for these cold climate heat pumps. And here's some things why we think it's better for you. We think there's safety in the home. We know that gas has open flames, especially if you love to cook with gas, and that can be dangerous, especially if you have children around when you're cooking. So we think it's safer for you to get rid of those, the burners from the open flames. We also know that heat pumps, and this is from Rocky Mountain Institute, one of our local energy efficiency, and now they're doing a lot on beneficial electrification about how the heat pumps really are more efficient than an Energy Star gas furnace. I think the big thing for me when I would look at, and I do have gas in my own townhouse, a boiler and a gas stove, is I'm actually looking at the indoor air quality. We know with the smoke, we've had to keep our windows and everything closed, but did you know every time you turn on your gas stove, that you've got carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and particulate matter, along with formaldehyde, which I didn't realize that. And there's a really good link to a new study with UCLA about how bad indoor air pollution is from our gas appliances, and something I really didn't know. And then we think, if you don't think climate change, whether you believe in climate change or not, you just have to live here this summer and realize that it's been over 90 almost every day for the last couple of weeks. So it is warming up, and we are definitely getting more inquiries on if we give rebates for swamp coolers or for these heat pumps for cooling. So we think it's a good way of reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, improving our public health. And a lot of us, Eagle County, the Salt, a lot of our communities in our territory actually have climate goals. So by going to a heat pump and going all electric, you're actually helping your community with some of their climate goals. So that's my self pitch on going all electric. So here's our new rebate. So these are, you guys are the first ones to see this. So these are going to be called beneficial electrification. This is actually switching from gas or propane to electricity. So a cold climate heat pump is $850 per ton, and that's where the manual J, the load calculation to right size the unit, is going to be really important. HSPF, you contractors know what that means, but it's called the heating seasonal performance factor. So that just means that unit is pretty darn efficient for us non-technical folks. We want you to use it for 80% time for your heating, and then it's got to be rated to -13 or lower. So I know that some of these heat pumps, and they were actually Mitsubishi, are up in Aspen, and they were working at -20 a couple of winters ago. It's hard to believe that we actually get that cold right now when it's 90 something here. Heat pump water heaters. So the heat pump water heater works the same way as a heat pump. We all have a heat pump already in our home. It's called your refrigerator. So these heat pumps work exactly the same. So a heat pump water heater, we're giving a $1,450 rebate, and they have to be Energy Star rated, which most of them are. They'll be called either a hybrid or a heat pump water heater. You do need like a 240 outlet. So if you are converting obviously from gas or propane, it might take a little electrical upgrade. And that's why our rebates are pretty generous. And then induction cooktop and range. So if you haven't heard of induction, Matt's going to be sending out a one-pager, and we have a video on there. Induction actually uses magnets. It's all electric, but it's more efficient and more precise cooking than gas. And I know if you're like me, you love to cook and you think gas is the bomb, right? It's the only way to go. Well, chefs and other serious cooks are actually changing to induction, because not only is it healthier for you, but you can boil water in 3 minutes. It's really precise cooking. You don't necessarily need to go get new pots and pans, because that's what everybody thinks. You just have to put a magnet on the bottom of your pot, and if the magnet sticks, it will work with induction. So we're going to give a little rebate for that to kind of get you to, pry that gas stove away from you. Then we still have our energy efficiency rebates. So these are still ongoing. So you can, sorry about that. So you can go out to our website. We have both residential, we have commercial. If you haven't visited our store, hcestore.com, you can buy LEDs and smart thermostats and some other energy efficiency products. And some of them will give you an instant rebate, so you don't have to worry about getting a rebate. So if you have electric baseboard heat, we do already have an existing heat pump rebate for you, which is slightly different than the one from going from gas to electric. What we're finding with people with electric baseboard, it's 250 watts per foot to run electric baseboard. And that, we get calls every winter about my bill's like $300 to $500. What we've seen with heat pumps is that you would leave your electric baseboard there, turn it off, and use the heat pump, and the bills go down, on average about 50%. So there's a pretty quick payback going to heat pump from electric baseboard. So those are just some of our rebates. So if you weren't aware of that, feel free to go out to that website and learn more about our rebates. And then if you haven't heard of some of our programs, we actually have a website down here that gives you some of our programs. We do have an income qualified solar and weatherization program, so we'll do free energy efficiency upgrades. There's a lottery. We actually have a 145 kilowatt solar garden at our gypsum warehouse gypsum substation, and every 2 years there's a lottery to get up to 50% of your bill covered. So we are actually going to start that lottery this year in September. So if you are income qualified and you want to apply for that, just go check our website because we'll have more information on that. Pure is powered by 100% renewable. So as you know, if you're a Holy Cross member, hopefully you know, we've committed to being 70% renewable by 2030. We think we're going to get there in the next year or two. We're already over 40% renewable. So to help us get there even quicker, you can sign up for the Pure program to offset the remainder, let's say, 59% or whatever for a small fee. And on the average residential bill, it's like $5 to $6 extra. And you can choose between solar, hydro, or wind. Time of day rate, a lot of people don't understand this, is that we really want to control our peak. Between 4 and 9 p.m. is when we see the most usage. And we get wholesale from Xcel Energy. And if we peak at the same time as Xcel, that costs us money. And of course, we have to pass that on to our ratepayers. So with our meters, you can actually go out on Smart Hub and look at your hourly usage. So if you're not using a lot of electricity during those 4 to 9 p.m. hours, that rate of 6 cents off peak and 24 cents on peak might make really good sense for you. Right now, the average, the residential rate, just flat rate, is 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you want any help, you can just go to our website, and there's actually a way to calculate that, and then you can give us a call and we'll help you with that. And that plays really well with our new peak time payback. So this is when we're going to call a critical or a high peak time. So we've been having a lot of these because the Denver area has been really hot. So they've been using a lot of air conditioning from like 4 to 8 p.m. So we might call an event, and you'll get a text or an email, however you want to sign up for those notifications, to say turn or use less energy. So don't use your dryer, don't use your dishwasher, turn off lights, your big appliances from this, let's say 5 to 7 tonight. And then we'll compare your last 10 days, what you use versus that 5 to 7 p.m. time, and then you'll get paid on your kilowatt hours saved. So it's a great way to add some money back into your bill. So anybody can sign up for it. So again, just go to that link. Some extra rebates, with the transportation, we are giving away free EV chargers for residential. If you're a business and want to have a dual port, meaning 2 plugs, we'd be happy to work with you. We're working with municipalities, put in the fast chargers that will charge your electric vehicle in 20, 30 minutes. And then we have which has been our most popular rebate this year, is the e-bike. So if you offset vehicle miles, which means you can't just ride up to Bell Pass or ride to the Maroon Bells, you actually have to get on your bike and go to the store or go to the outdoor yoga class, or just some offsetting, leaving your car in the garage and taking your e-bike will give you a $200 rebate. And then we also still have our renewable energy rebates that we have. And those are changing September 1st. And that's all it. There's my contact information. I'm happy to talk to anybody. If you are doing new construction and all electric, please give me a call, because we do have a formula we're using to give you a rebate for going all electric. And thank you for your time. Stay healthy and happy, everybody.
Thank you very much, Mary. As I said at the beginning, any questions that have not been addressed verbally, we will definitely get to them at the end of the presentation. We will hang around for about 15, 20 minutes to help answer those questions. And if we don't get them during that time, I will send a follow-up email with the answer to your specific question. With that, I am going to go ahead and start with move into energy programs at Walking Mountain Science Center and the organization as a whole. I want to thank everyone again for attending today. And I also want to thank our Mitsubishi team, Sean, Curtis, and Sam, for presenting, as well as Mary Weiner of Holy Cross Energy, one of our utility partners. Feel free to contact any of us about the information that has been provided today in our presentation. So, energy programs at Walking Mountains consists of Nikki Moline, who is our Energy Programs Director, and I am Matt Parker, Energy Programs Associate. Our contact information is here on this slide. To begin, I would like to talk about our organization, about Walking Mountain Science Center. As of right now, our mission is more important and relevant today than ever before. Our mission is to awaken a sense of wonder and inspire environmental stewardship and sustainability through natural science education. So, Walking Mountain Science Center has many programs to fit our community needs. Youth programs centers on natural science education to our Valley's youth. Community programs provide a range of activities from any age from 1 to 101. And lastly, sustainability programs. Sustainability programs here at Walking Mountains consists of energy programs, providing energy efficiency incentives and coaching to the Valley. Actively Green is a great resource for local businesses to access sustainability trainings and certifications. We have our Climate Action Collaborative, which is a consortium of local businesses, governments, and institutions reaching for a goal of reduce greenhouse gas emissions here in the Valley. We have Mountain Ideal, which is a destination designation. Vail Destination was the first to be certified with this program. And our Zero Waste program provides the community with education on recycling and waste reduction. This is our Valley's experts on all of these. More specifically on our programs, energy programs, we service the Eagle Valley, Vail through .0. And also we have partners through the Energy Smart Colorado program all throughout the Gunnison County, Roaring Fork Valley, Summit County, Lake County, and Yampa Valley. Energy programs provides free energy coaching for homes and businesses. We help the community make smart energy saving decisions and connect with them through local incentives and resources, including low-cost energy assessments and free business walkthroughs. We provide incentives and rebates for homes and businesses for energy efficiency programs, renewable energy implementation, and radon mitigation. We have a contractor list available and can assist with bid evaluation and savings estimates. This contractor list does also contain contractors for HVAC that can assist in helping you with installing a cold climate air source heat pump. We also service income qualified homes at 80% average median income, and through our CARE program, which is partnered with Energy Outreach Colorado. We also do radon awareness, handing out free radon test kits available to local homes year round, especially in January, which is National Radon Action Month. We provide various workshops and trainings, including realtor training on energy efficiency, partnering locally with the Vail Board of Realtors, various lunch and learns workshops, community education on energy efficiency, and over the last few years hosted some ride and drive and electric vehicle info sessions. We are doing work directly related to our climate action plan goals to reduce emissions in buildings. To go over this slide briefly, we try to do this in 3 easy steps with easy access to information, workforce, and incentives. We receive information, participants will receive information through home energy assessments or business energy walkthroughs, quality workforce connections, which includes knowledgeable energy coaches, certified energy analysts, and local contractors. Lastly, our incentives. This is money back in your pocket for qualified energy efficient projects. Speaking of our rebates, this is where everybody gets excited. I want to specifically highlight our rebates for cold climate air source heat pumps, which must be greater than or equal to 10 HSPF, along with heat pump water heaters and induction cooktops. We are happy to answer any of the questions at the end about these rebates and technologies, and we can send you a detailed list of what is required for each. In fact, it will be in your follow-up email you get after this webinar. Next, for the fine print. So to qualify for these rebates, you will, and some of the rules pertaining to them, you'll get a max rebate of 50% of project costs, and we also consider utility rebates. So this includes, or for example, if your project costs $100 and Holy Cross rebates you $25, our rebate is going to also be $25. So 50% of the total cost was $50 and then split up between the rebates. Homes receive $500 per year and businesses receive $1,000 per year. Home energy assessment or business energy walkthroughs are mandatory. You must submit within 180 days of the project completion date. And some of our requirements are a photo, invoice, document, and other documents specific to the project. Feel free to contact us for the full list of our rebates and rules. All right, so we also have a collaboration with the town of Vail, which has some increased incentives. As you can see, we do free home energy assessments of any sized home and up to $100 in quick fixes. The double rebates are $1,000 per year for homes, normally $500, and for businesses up to $2,000 per year, and a max of 75% of any costs, any project costs. Now, the biggest thing, especially since we are here talking about cold climate air source heat pumps, we have our electrification mini grant rebate. This means that if you switch from any space or water heating from gas to an electric heat pump, or switch from a gas cooktop to an electric induction cooktop, it must be installed per manufacturer specifications. All regular rebates and rules and project specifications apply. The amount is up to $2,500 per qualified home, including our regular $500 rebate, and $6,000 per qualified business. To apply, please contact us or go to energy@walkingmountains.org. And to kind of finish up, upcoming events and webinars hosted by Energy Programs at Walking Mountain Science Center. On Wednesday, September 2nd, we have our Rebate Wednesday series, which goes a little more in depth of what I just talked about. On September 9th, we have a smart commuting and guest transport workshop. And Wednesday, September 23rd, energy efficiency workshop. We also are in collaboration with Mitsubishi, the team that is here today, to do a webinar for contractors that is more specific to the technical side of cold climate air source heat pumps. And this last slide is just a little bit more of our contact information here at Walking Mountains. And now we will open it up to questions about all of what has been talked about during this presentation. Any of our presenters are encouraged to, just throw out whatever answers they have. I know that there's still quite a few questions here in the doc, so feel free to jump in on any of those.
So I think for Sean and you guys, there is one really good one because we get this question a lot at Holy Cross. So if people are going from gas to electricity, what kind of amperage? So are they going to have to upgrade their breaker box and bring in an electrician? Or do these have such a low pole that we don't have to worry about that? But I think that's a really good question.
Great question. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Mary. Well, I suspect that the first answer to many of these questions is it depends. So it depends on the size of the system. Many of our systems are anywhere from, say, most of our systems fall between, say, 1.5 kW power to maybe upwards of 5 kW power for the really big multi-zone 4-ton systems. And so running, I can't do the conversion in my head right now in terms of amperage, but the amps generally are in the range of 10 amps on the low end, and that covers both the outdoor and the indoor. So that would be a 1-to-1 small system, upwards of probably 40 to maybe 50 amps on the larger ones, and that could cover the outdoor plus all the indoors. That's the typical residential arrangement. Now, when you get up into the more powerful systems, like the one I showed on the slide deck, that one you might see kind of a 20 amp plus a 30 amp kind of combination. So depends on how much space they have on their breaker, depends on whether or not they're adding in electric resistance. And electric resistance backup is only one option. Our units can work. They can basically send a control signal to backup systems. So if you have let's say you have a pellet stove and and that's driven by a thermostat, and you could actually signal that pellet stove to turn on with that control strategy. And there's different ways to look at it. Does that answer your question, Mary?
Yeah, because that came up, yeah. And I think a good one is the life expectancy of the heat pump, because a boiler can last a long time, right? You can get 25, 30 years out of a well-maintained boiler, not so much out of a furnace. So what's the life expectancy at our high elevation of a heat pump?
I would say in that, to answer that, we're in the range of that boiler. I will say that our systems, when our units are manufactured, and I'm going to speak generally, that it's about quality. You're looking for a quality product. You're looking for warranties of, as long as things are registered and installed by a qualified technician, you're looking at warranties from 10 to 12 years. And the engineering for our systems in particular is in the range of 25 to 30 years as well. Every single indoor unit, every single outdoor unit is in the line, not just taken off the line to test for quality, but is in line tested for quality, a whole battery of tests. And those results are held on to at the factory for 30 years. So they design for long-term operation, continuous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds good. And I've seen them fail. So I cannot stress enough the need to have a contractor that has knowledge on how to install them, because if you don't install them correctly, they will not work correctly like anything else. Another really good question is, go ahead.
It just goes back to that. It just goes back to that whole thing of, reading the instruction manual.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's where Walking Mountains and Holy Cross can help review bids, talk about how is it going to be installed, that type of thing. Here's a really good question, because we are seeing multifamily units, so we consider them 4 units or more. How can they go all electric? How would you do something?
Multifamily going all electric?
An all electric multifamily.
The one joke that I have is that the good news is that there's different ways to do it. The bad news is there's different ways to do it. We have a very broad range of equipment options. There's residential equipment, there's commercial equipment, there's light commercial, large commercial, etc. We've done very large buildings with our large commercial equipment. So it just depends on the design, the intention that the builder, the developer, the owner has for that building, the occupants, how they use it, etc. What some of the aesthetic requirements are, whether there's a whole compressor farm on the roof, or 1 or 2 large towers on the far side, far end of the building. That's the commercial product. So you generally, if it's new construction, residential, I'm a fan of these small ducted units that can pick up the small loads in these multifamilies or these small rooms, etc. If you only have a load of, say, 1,000 BTUs in a room, you don't want to put a 6,000 or 9,000 or 12,000 BTU head into that room with a new building show. However, if it's a brick building, a stone building, 1940s, or a log building, or what have you, that doesn't quite have the same insulation value, in the middle of the night, in the middle of winter, you might actually benefit from doing that larger head. It all goes back to the load calcs. It all goes back to taking those load calcs and matching them up with proper system design to meet the loads for the various spaces. And we've got a wide selection to work from, to choose from.
Yeah. And then we have a lot of boilers. I have one. So how do we transition a boiler hydronic, which is baseboard, or in-floor, to a heat pump?
Sure. Because there's a lot of different hydronic strategies, whether it be high mass or low mass floors, or baseboards, or high efficiency or low efficiency boilers, etc. When is this boiler planned to be retired? There's different answers to each of those. On a simple basis, if you simply wanted to use your heat pump as a base temperature, and then the heat pump lifts from the base temperature to set point for occupancy, that's similar to how the Gantt in Aspen is operating there. So I can't remember their base set point, but I want to say it was 62 degrees, let's say 65 degrees. And then they have the ductless units in there to lift from 65 degrees to whatever that person wants, wherever they come in from, Florida or Europe or etc. They can set that set point quickly, quick recovery with a little bit of airflow to their comfort level.
Thank you, Sean.
And
I don't know.
Oh,
So I just have, sorry, Matt, I have a quick question. People are asking, because electrification is the new buzzword, and what's that going to do to the grid if everybody decides to electrify? I mean, we see the blackouts happening in California. So one thing Holy Cross is doing is those peak time payback rebates, trying to get people to start looking at when they use their bigger appliances. Can you preheat your water? Can you pre-cool or preheat your house? Unmuted. During our peak load, or when the sun's not shining or the wind's not blowing. So that's kind of where we're going. And then we're doing a pilot with battery storage. So that's kind of going to be the two big ones, is trying to control our load, but then also looking at battery storage.
Yeah, that's it. Those are the answers. I mean, it's multiple solutions. It's a complex problem that has, you know, a multifaceted solution. Think of it as a well-diversified portfolio. We need a better diversified portfolio in our energy generation, our energy transmission, our energy storage, and our energy use. You know, managing the electrons better, it's not just about power generation, but about power management.
Okay. It looks like I have another good question. How many inside units can connect to one outdoor unit? Is it 1-to-1?
We can do 1-to-1, which is 1 indoor, 1 outdoor. We can do multi-zone, which is 2 to 8 connected to 1 outdoor, depending on the size that you're talking about. You can also step up 1 level to the small commercial or light commercial product that we have, where you can do up to 12 units indoor to 1 outdoor, again, depending on sizes and capabilities. And then our commercial product will do up to 50 indoor units connected to 1 outdoor unit. Caveat, it depends on what you're looking at and what your need is.
And that depends on the, obviously depends on the outdoor unit as well. So we have a lot of different products that you can go up to 16 or like Sean said, up to 50 on the commercial side.
All right, so I think one of the other ones that I was seeing in here, I think this is a good question to kind of wrap up everything, kind of going back to electrification together. With the transition to electrification in heating and cooling, automobiles, cooking, etc., as that all expands, how will the grid be able to keep up with demand?
And I just answered that one.
Oh, you did? Sorry.
Yep, that's okay. It's batteries, the combination of batteries and then behavior in your home and business is not using, think about preheating, pre-cooling, all that when the sun's shining and the wind's blowing. So, I would like, if I can just interject there. So, something we didn't really stress is get 2 to 3 quotes. Holy Cross has a contractor list. Both Walking Mountains and I are happy to look at your bids. So if you get a pretty outrageous bid, we're happy to look at that and discuss that. Somebody got a bid of $90,000 to $120,000 for a 4,000 square foot building. That's pretty outrageous. So I will say, after talking with contractors here, we know the cost of living in the Eagle Valley and the Roaring Fork Valley is extremely high, and it's not going down. And that's why we try to work with the contractors to bring down those labor costs. It's not the cost of the equipment, it's the labor cost, and get them where they can learn to install them faster. So the labor costs, they don't need as many hours. So if you get a bid that seems really outrageous, give one of us the call and let's talk about it, and we can maybe give you some other contractors that might be a little more affordable. And there is a contractor list on both of our websites.
All right, well, does anybody have any other questions?
You know, Matt, I'll take a stab. There was I know Nikki and a couple others were interested in the health and wellness piece, indoor air quality piece. Obviously a hot topic right now. I will say this, the ductless units, while they do provide better filtration and consistent filtration, more turnover, if you will, of air throughout the space, they are not designed to be air filters. They're not designed to be used in that way for a MERV or a MERV 14, MERV 15, or HEPA level filtration. So if you're looking at doing something like that, then you would look more towards some of the ducted products. And I strongly believe that I don't think we'll ever see a disappearance of ductwork in homes and buildings, because you're always going to have a need for ventilation, filtration, humidity management, etc., as well as better distribution around the space. So I see a hybrid of ductless and ducted being a primary design strategy going forward. And in that, you can integrate in high efficiency filtration, fresh air measurement, and making sure you're getting the right CFMs, the right turnover. You can do indoor quality testing, so looking at CO2, CO, you can look at PM 2.5 types of measurements, and you can initiate ventilation systems to work with the distribution of a hybrid ductless system. But just be aware that while we do have some advanced filters for a ductless product, it is not meant to be humidity management. It's not meant to be high efficiency MERV level filtration.
Thank you for that, Sean.
Yeah, you bet.
All right. Is there anything else that anyone would like to cover, or are there any attendees that have any last minute questions that you'd like us to answer? All right. I think with that, again, a final thank you to our Mitsubishi team, Sean, Sam, and Kurt. Thank you very much to Mary for coming and talking about Holy Cross Energy's incentives and programs. And then thank you to Nikki Moline for helping me out, and all of the great work that our presenters have put into our program today.
That's great. Thanks so much for having us, Matt and Nikki.
And thank you all for attending.
Thank you, everyone.